I want to have a conversation with you, and at the same time it'll teach you and others about how to make an argument.
Sure.
Muslims claim that Paul invented Christianity.
Yeah.
Christians claim that Muhammad invented Christianity. Muslims and Christians claim that L. Ron Hubbard and Joseph Smith invented their religions.
Yeah.
What would we reasonably expect from someone who invented a religion?
Right, so we would expect someone to not be able to give any direct evidence that it's from God.
Okay,
So
what else might we expect?
we would expect them to not have certain information and to have lapses in understanding of theology, particularly if they claim to be based on prior religions.
Yep, what else might we expect?
What else do we expect? We might expect that they are selfishly entwined. Their motives seem to benefit them to the expense of others.
Yep. In what ways might that express itself?
So it might express itself, for example, in having multiple sexual partners, committing adultery and justifying it. It might represent itself in being held at a higher standard than perhaps is appropriate.
Yep.
It might express itself in the accumulation of wealth.
Yep.
It might express itself in doing things that I think are objectively evil, perhaps having relations with an underage child.
Yep.
Things like this, I would say.
Okay, so now let's look at the evidence. Everyone accepts that L. Ron Hubbard, who, for those of you that don't know, was the founder of Scientology, right? Do you know much about Scientology?
A little bit.
Right, what do you know about Scientology?
So L. Ron Hubbard is the founder of it. He used to be a writer of science fiction books
Yep.
beforehand.
Yep.
I know what sticks out in my mind about Scientology is the fact that he was pro-smoking. He believed that smoking didn't cause cancer. In fact, he gave speeches, and you can listen to it online, where he will openly say it's the ceasing to smoke that causes cancer.
Right, so a massive erroneous error.
Massive erroneous scientific error.
Right, so let me just tell you a little bit more about L. Ron Hubbard. L. Ron Hubbard was the founder of Scientology. He founded the Church of Scientology in the 1950s and served as its sole leader until 1986.
Okay.
During that time, he wrote many books that were then sold to the followers of Scientology. Principal among them was the book on diadatics, the idea that there are ways to remove enneagrams from your soul so that you can be prepared for some future existence. Now, when N. Ron Hubbard founded his religion, he founded it having written in 1949 to a friend this: "Writing for a penny a word is ridiculous. If a man really wants to make $1 million, the best way he would be to start his own religion." Scientology is the only religion in the world where you pay for revelation. Every other religion in the world gives you revelation for free. But in Scientology, you pay. You buy the books, you buy the teachings. There's always new courses being invented, and each course is more expensive than the last one you did. Could you stick that in the side basket of my bag? Now, L. Ron Hubbard received a percentage of the income from the movement of Scientology. This made him a wealthy man. He owned multiple houses, multiple boats, multiple cars. And surprise, surprise, he was married multiple times and had extramarital affairs. And many of those that he had extramarital affairs with were followers of his religion.
Heard this before.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, his lifestyle included luxury homes, private jets, private ships. Now, lots of people, quite understandably, think that if you're going to invent a religion or found a religion, it will be to your benefit. Do we have examples of the same, Chris, in the Christian faith, where people found churches for their own benefit?
Yes,
Well,
many. Copeland. What's his name? Copeland, no? I was asking the brother. The guy who was
Kenneth Copeland.
That's what.
yeah. So there are there are heretics who start things for their own benefit, clearly for their own
Don't let
benefit.
scriptura, Christian.
Yeah.
No.
Yes.
Keep going.
Yes.
Keep going.
So I can think of examples.
Yeah, go on.
So Mormons, for example.
Mormons? No, we're not talking about Mormons.
Okay, we're not talking about Mormons. We're talking
If
about
you don't
those
know,
who-
you don't know.
Okay.
Talking about prosperity teachers.
Okay, yeah.
That's what
a
I'm
good
thinking
example.
of.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
Okay, so Chris didn't get there, so let me just explain. This is the argument. I'm teaching you an argument.
All right.
So prosperity teachers like Kenneth Copeland, Creflo Dollar, Joyce Myers,
Hillsong.
and other teachers, particularly rampant in Nigeria, that found these spiritual pyramid schemes in which you bless the pastor with your finances,
Yeah.
he gets rich while you get poor, and he goes and lives in mansions and justifies it through his teaching from the pulpit.
Yeah.
So Christianity is not immune from this.
Ah.
Do you know, Chris, about the ways that Joseph Smith
Yeah.
benefited from the founding of Mormonism?
Well, I know he had, I believe he had multiple wives.
He had multiple wives, yes.
I believe he was a wealthy man.
Yeah.
I've heard stories about Freemason stuff with him as well.
Multiple wives like Muhammad.
Multiple, what?
Multiple wives
Yeah, like
Muhammad.
Muhammad. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a common trend.
Stay on task. We're talking about Mormonism.
Whoa, what else do I know? I don't know. Not too much more about that.
Okay. So when you look into Joseph Smith's life, what do you find? And I'm going to give you a quick task, see if you can do it. Find examples of where Joseph Smith changed doctrinal positions. See if you can find some examples.
Okay.
So Joseph Smith changed doctrinal positions at will.
Such as,
We're going to look for examples. I want to include Chris in this.
go on, Iceman.
Joseph Smith permitted polygamy and benefited from permitting polygamy, having multiple wives.
Okay.
Joseph Smith particularly was financially beneficial, as in Mormonism 10% of all income had to be given to the church, and Joseph Smith benefited directly from this. This is particularly true when one thinks of the founding of the city of Nauvoo. The city was founded by the Mormons, and as the leader of the Mormon church, Joseph Smith obviously became the leading figure of the city.
Wow.
He ended up receiving positions of power and influence over businesses in the city of Nauvoo, enriching himself. His business ventures were funded by the money that he received from the Mormon church. Have you found any examples?
Not directly.
Right, do some research.
Yeah. We'll look into this.
Go on,
Do some research. Now, ladies and gentlemen,
Yeah.
did Muhammad
Ah.
benefit from the founding of Islam?
Yes.
Did Muhammad
Yeah.
benefit from the founding of Islam?
Yes, he did.
So, right, here we go.
All right.
Let me give you some examples of how Muhammad benefited. Now, bro, gonna give you my phone. All you need to do is move it up and down. Just be careful. Just be careful not to lose it, because I've got no internet access. So just move it up and down, okay? So, read the introduction and then the hadith.
You know what? Hold that.
Yeah.
So starting multiple wives.
Starting with multiple wives. Did Muhammad benefit from founding Islam?
All right, multiple wives. Allah revealed to Muhammad that Muslim men are permitted to marry up to 4 women.
How many?
4.
4.
4 women. And if you fear, and this is quoting the Quran, Surah 4, Ayah 3, and if you fear that you will not be able to deal justly with the orphan girls, then marry other women of your choice. 2 or 3 or 4, but if you fear that you shall not be able to deal justly with them, then only 1, or the captives and the slaves that your right hand possesses. However, it seemed Muhammad had a special place in his heart for women and was not satisfied with a mere 4. So Allah set an exception for him alone.
Yeah.
What on earth is that?
Oh, it's the emergency thing. It's the you've got it on yours as well. So, where did you get up to? Whom God has given to you and daughters of Am, paternal uncles, and the daughters of Amna, and the daughters of your Kal, and the daughters of Kala, who migrated with you, and a believing woman, if she offers herself to the Prophet, and the Prophet wishes to marry her, a privilege for you only, not for the rest of the believers. So one of the proofs that a man is inventing a religion is that it benefits him. He has exceptional rules for him that other people don't have. Muhammad said that all Muslims can marry up to 4 wives, but he was allowed to have more than 4 wives. Did Paul, who the Muslims accuse of inventing Christianity, benefit by having multiple wives, Chris?
No, absolutely not.
No, he did not. Read on.
Where you get to?
Next, this bit.
Okay, sure. Alright, so this is the hadith. Narrated Al-Miswar bin Mu'akkab, I heard Allah's apostle who was on the pulpit saying, Banu Hisham bin al-Mughayr have requested me to allow them to marry their daughter, to Allah bin Abu Talib. But I don't give permission, and will not give permission unless Allah bin Abu Talib divorces my daughter in order to marry their daughter. Because Fatima is a part of my body, and I hate what she hates to see, and what hurts her hurts me. That's interesting.
Keep going.
Muhammad carved special exceptions to marriage for himself by divine revelation, and forbid for his son-in-law Ali something permitted all other Muslim men per Allah's revelation in the Quran.
So what did you keep going? Yeah.
Oh, here we go.
Have you finished it? Yeah. Go on. Keep going.
This is treating wives equally well.
Right. Stop. That's a new section.
Yeah, sure.
So finish the last section. What do you get from that?
I get that Muhammad was a hypocrite. That Muhammad wouldn't allow the same benefit that he had to his son-in-law Ali. So Muhammad had this special exception, but he did not give that to his own son-in-law Ali. So he's being hypocritical.
So he's establishing one rule for him,
Another rule for everyone else.
and a different rule for Ali. This is exactly the kind of behavior we would expect to see if Muhammad invented Islam. However, did Paul create this kind of special exceptionalism?
No.
Can Muslims give us an example where Paul had special exceptionalism? Let's look at another example.
All right, this is treating wives equally well. In this,
Actually, yep. Let me just skip. Yeah. Right, go on.
Okay, in the same verse noted above, Quran Surah 4 Ayah 3, is an injunction to treat all wives equally. But if you fear that you shall not be able to deal justly with them, then only 1.
Now you can skip to the hadith.
Okay, so here's the hadith. You, O Muhammad, can postpone the turn of whom you will of them, your wives, and you may receive whom you will. And whosoever you desire of those whom you have set aside, her turn temporarily, it is no sin on you to receive her again. That is better, that you may be comforted and not grieved, and may all be pleased with what you give them. God knows what is in your hearts, and God is ever all-knowing, most forbearing.
So here, Muhammad creates a special exception for him. The Quran says that you should treat all your wives equally. But Muhammad says, or Muhammad has a special revelation that says, if he doesn't treat his wives equally, he is committing no sin.
Yep.
What a surprise! This is exactly what we would expect to see if Muhammad was inventing Islam, if it was the creation of Muhammad.
And we know that Aisha was given special privileges because Muhammad treated her differently. He gave her multiple days because he used to go around to all his wives, and the idea was he would treat them equally by spending an equal amount of time with them. But one of his wives gave up her day so Muhammad wouldn't divorce her, and he used that day to spend more time with Aisha. So he did indeed break his own rule.
Because Muhammad loved the little children.
Apparently
Literally
so.
loved the little children.
Apparently so.
Now, let's look at another example. Let's move on. Yeah, actually, let's go on to. Let's look at Mary the Copt.
So this is Muhammad and Mary the Copt. As stated above, Muhammad used to take turns among his wives, visiting a different one each night. One night during the time allocated for Hafsa, she had to take care of an urgent need with another family member, and so was not at home. Muhammad instead had intimate relations with Mary, a Coptic slave.
A Coptic slave?
Yeah.
Not his wife.
Yep.
A slave girl.
That had been given to him. Muhammad was not married to Mary the Copt. When Hafsa found this out and questioned him, he promised an oath not to touch Mary again if she would keep this a secret.
So Muhammad gave his word that he wouldn't commit adultery with Mary the Copt again because it hurt his wife Hafsa.
Yeah. And promised that Umar and Abu Bakr should be his successors. Hafsa, however, did not keep quiet and told Aisha about this event. As a result, Muhammad had no dealings with any of his wives for a full month, living with Mary alone. Wow. Aisha and Hafsa...
Just stop for a second.
Yeah.
What happened to treating your wives fairly?
Whoa.
What happened to being the best role model? The Quran said to treat your wives fairly, and because Muhammad was sulking, he neglected all of his wives for a month so that he could sleep with a slave girl. Go on.
Oh, horrible. Right, let's have a look. Here we go. Aisha and Hafsa conspired with the rest of the Prophet's wives against Muhammad and isolated him from physical relations. To justify his actions with Mary, Muhammad then conveniently received a revelation.
What was?
It's this. This is in Surah 66, Ayah 1. O Prophet, why do you ban for yourself that which God has made lawful to you?
So in other words, Muhammad had decided that he would not have sex with his slave girl, Mary the Copt, and then up popped the sock puppet Allah and said,
O Prophet, why do you ban for yourself that which God has made lawful to you?
So in other words, Allah says that it's okay for you to have sex with your slave girl, Mary the Copt. If Muhammad was inventing his religion, we would expect him, like L. Ron Hubbard, like Joseph Smith, to have revelations of convenience and to allow and to benefit from those revelations. Let's look at another example.
Yeah, Satanic Verses.
Yes, let's look at the Satanic Verses.
Okay. Pre-Islamic Mecca was a hotbed of paganism and polytheism. It is said 360 idols surrounded the Kaaba and were worshipped as gods.
Of which the Black Rock was one of those idols, and still is today.
Thus, when Muhammad first began preaching monotheism and denouncing the other 359 gods, he was met with much resistance and hostility. In an attempt to appease the Meccans, buy some time and bring relief to his followers from hostility, Muhammad one night had a revelation found in Surah 53, ayah 19 to 22, which originally read, have you thought of Alat and Aluza and Manat the third, the other? These are the exalted, whose intercession is approved.
So Muhammad was under pressure from the pagan Meccans and received a revelation praising the idols of the Meccans. How convenient! Carry on, don't worry, keep going, keep going.
Here we go. Alat,
They're triggered, but they have no answer. Keep going.
Alat, Aluza and Manat were three female deities known as daughters of Allah. By this revelation, Muhammad acknowledged that these deities as worthy of worship and whose intercession in heaven was to be sought. Acknowledging these deities had the desired effect. Later, the angel Gabriel chastised Muhammad for uttering these verses and informed him that Satan, not Allah, had put these words in Muhammad's mouth.
In other words, how convenient that people had identified that Muhammad had praised pagan idols, and he received a revelation saying that it wasn't from Allah, it was from Iblis. What prophet has spoken the words of the devil?
Absolutely.
Go on.
So, you can find this, by the way, in Ibn Ashaq and Al-Tabari. The earliest Muslim sources confirm that the Sahaba believed this happened, that Satan cast into the mouth of Muhammad to call on 3 separate gods as deities besides Allah.
And they predate the hadiths that Muslims use.
Yes, they do.
Let's move on to another example.
Okay, let's have violation of the sacred months, battle of the trench, Muhammad and genetics.
No, let me pull up a different.
The point is, ladies and gentlemen, that Muhammad himself frequently sinned by engaging in acts that no honest, righteous person would ever consider to be good. There is no way in which Muhammad having sex with Mary the Copt can ever be considered just and something that legitimately came from God. Rather, it came from his own authority that he got from a cave, from something that he originally thought was demonic.
So, ladies and gentlemen, one of the traits that we would expect from someone who is inventing their own religion is that they should benefit from that religion. We see it with L. Ron Hubbard, we saw it with Joseph Smith, and we see it with Muhammad. Think of some of the ways that Muhammad benefited from his religion. Can you think of any?
He used force for his own political ends.
Give example. Can you think of an example?
Give an example. I'm thinking of the way he told them to have camel urine, and he went there and then they burned their hands, cut off their hands and their feet.
Go on.
With the fact he could beat his own wives, Surah 4, Ayah 34. Muhammad himself did strike Aisha, according to Hadith. I can bring that up.
Yeah. So, ladies and gentlemen, Muslims accuse Paul of inventing Christianity. We therefore should assume to see that Paul benefited from inventing Christianity. But do we see that Paul benefited like Muhammad benefited from inventing Christianity? We read in 2 Corinthians chapter 11, reading from verse 22. But in whatever respect anyone else is bold, I speak in foolishness. I am just bold myself. And they are the Hebrews, so am I. Are they Israelites? So am I. Are they descendants of Abraham? So am I. Are they servants of Christ? I speak as if insane. I more so. For more labours, for far more imprisonments, beaten times without number, often in danger of death. 5 times I received from the Jews 39 lashes. 3 times I was beaten with rods. Once I was stoned. 3 times I was shipwrecked. A night, a day I have spent in the depths. I have been on frequent journeys, in dangers from rivers, dangers from robbers, dangers from my countrymen, dangers from Gentiles, dangers from the city, dangers in the wilderness, dangers on the sea, dangers from amongst false brethren. I have been in labour and hardship through many sleepless nights, in hunger and thirst, often without food, in cold and exposure. Apart from such external things, there is the daily pressure on me of concern for all the churches. Who is weak without my being weak? who is led into sin without my intense concern. Paul suffered for his faith. Muhammad benefited for his faith.
Exactly.
Paul suffered for his faith. L. Ron Hubbard benefited for his faith. Paul suffered for his faith. Joseph Smith benefited for his faith. The key example that you will see of a man inventing a religion or ideology is that he will benefit from it. That is exactly what we see of Muhammad. It is not what we see of Paul.
Exactly.